All right, question for the day is, how do those of you with BDSM play partners keep romantic in check? I'm finding it tricky to distinguish romantic relationship type dynamics from the new BDSM play partner ones. The only difference seems to be what we call each other. At what point in the non-vanilla world is this just a regular relationship? If the goal is to keep that boundary in place, what do you do to keep it that way? So let me see if I've understood the question properly as well. This is a person who has a BDSM play partner who is doing all sorts of what you might call non-BDSM things, like going to the movies and having dinner. So I think what she's asking is, are we dating? It's the perennial question of what are we doing exactly? And it becomes more complicated when you're tying the girl up and spanking her.
It does actually become more complicated with that because kink is fundamentally intimate. You're showing a deep part of yourself because it's not about the spanking. It's not just about, it can be, and maybe that's partly the answer to the question. I think our sex culture has become a bit cavalier, and I think there's good reasons for trying to take it, not totally, but at least take it a little bit off the pedestal, or at least bring the pedestal down a little bit. I get it, but knocking over the pedestal also, I think, leads to some of these problems where, hey, actually, there is something pretty intimate about sex. There is something pretty intimate about kinky sex for sure. And when you have been intimate with someone, that's an interesting challenge. Is then how do you have an ongoing interaction of deep intimacy without establishing a relationship? And I'm not saying it can't be done, but there is a real challenge there, no question. Because like any intimate relationship, if it were to go away, you would grieve it. If you're really excited by it, you want to spend a lot of time and mental energy on it. You think about that person a lot. You think about how to please them. You think about your next upcoming interaction. And all of those things mean that you're doing the relationship thing. It's not just, oh, well, it's out of sight, out of mind. If you have a sufficiently organized mind and a compartmentalizing mind to where you can put them out of your head when you're not actually engaging with them kink-wise, then maybe you can pull that off. But that's really what it takes, because otherwise you are doing the relationship thing under any whatever name you want to call it. That's what you're doing under the surface, is you're being intimate with someone. You are engaging emotionally, connecting, building deeper and deeper connection. And ultimately, if the other person's not doing that and you're out of sight, out of mind, then there's going to be tears at the end of it.
Yeah, that's a good response. The issue is if you are doing quote unquote properly with communication and sort of mutual respect and understanding of boundaries and really seeing your partner doing play to make sure you're not pushing them too far. You've talked about this in your book as well, of really paying attention. Paying attention to someone that closely is also, there's a romanticism to that as well. And
yes, absolutely.
So inherently, you feel cared for, paradoxically, as you're being spanked. If this is being done properly, you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel cared for. And there's a very short road to walk from that sensation to real feelings right now. And then it becomes really hard. The boundaries get blurred, and you're not really sure where the intimacy and closeness sort of begin and end. We've talked about intimacy and closeness before. So I would gather that romantic relationships have a lot of closeness to them. They have a lot of intimacy to them. But you can easily, with kink, you have the intimacy right away. And then it's not that difficult if you're communicating properly to get to closeness. And then if you have both, then congratulations, you're in a relationship, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Figure it out.
By the way, the best definition of romance that I've ever heard. It's an interesting question. What do you mean romance? It's I think a question a lot of guys would ask. The best definition I've ever heard is the perception of the other person as being special enough that if they left your life, you would feel it. Your life would be different if they left. And so a lot of what women are looking for in relationships is like, oh, my partner's not romantic with me. I want more romance. What they're looking for is the feeling that I'm special, and not special just in an arbitrary way, but special to you, that if I died tomorrow, you wouldn't just go on with your life unchanged. You would feel the loss of me in some sense. And communicating, hey, if you died, I would feel the loss of you. And that's what flowers are saying. Right? That's what that special dinner night out is. Man, you're really a special person. And I'm taking a moment, I'm taking a night, I'm taking hours to savor your specialness and how unique and different you are and how irreplaceable you are. Irreplaceable is actually the key word there. Is I could get another relationship, but I couldn't replace you. It wouldn't be you, right? That's romance. And yeah, that's hard not to get into in a BDSM relationship because you're getting into this person's psyche, you're understanding some deep things, and there isn't anyone who's going to be quite exactly that blend of flavors of emotion and kink and preferences and ways of expressing and laughter and all the things. And yeah, when you see someone that closely, it gets romantic pretty quick. The other thing I'll say is there are certain kinks you can't engage. So for one of my main kinks, for instance, is orgasm denial. So I think it's really hot. I love to play around with it, but it is a multi-day, usually, the way I like to play with it, it's a multi-day plan. So in an established relationship, so for instance, I might say, you're only allowed to come on Tuesdays and Fridays between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. That creates an entire mood the entire week. I'm fucking you, I'm free in free use, you're giving me blowjobs, doing all these things, but you're not allowed to come until Tuesday. And your experience of life, of going to work, I've edged you, I've played with you, I've eaten your pussy, I've gotten you turned on, but never let you come. Well, Monday or Tuesday at work, that's on your mind. Now, that's not a casual play partner at that point. Again, I'm not out of sight, out of mind. I'm very much in your mind. I'm affecting a large section of your life. There is romance in that. There is specialness in that. There's a bond that's being formed there. With past partners, when we decided that we weren't going to pursue a relationship, but we wanted to be friends with benefits, and we started dating maybe originally thinking about a relationship, but realized we weren't compatible in some important ways. But we enjoyed having sex with each other. And so we were like, well, maybe we could be friends with benefits or whatever. Certain kinks had to go. Certain things we just couldn't play with anymore and had to be taken off the table because it prevented the out of sight, out of mind barrier that was necessary.
That's actually a very good way to frame it, is that there could be certain kink behaviors that deepen the intimacy to such an extent that it becomes somewhat indistinguishable from an actual, quote-unquote, actual relationship. Not that sure. a kink play partner is not a relationship of some kind, but it's sure. the kind this person, Opie was talking, romantic relationship, meaning that this is my partner and all these other domains as well. There's certain kink activities that, like you said, they do go out of sight, out of mind. One of them is bruises. If you spank someone hard enough and they bruise, then those bruises are going to last all week. And in my experience, the submissive I've been who have been bruised have been actually quite happy. Oh, the bruises are so amazing. Thank you so much for the bruises, right? And so on and so forth. But that's 4 days or whatever number of days after the event, and we're still talking about it. It's not out of... If nothing else, it's just people talk a lot about safe and consensual and sane. The sort of guardrails of kink, they talk about make sure you don't choke her to death and all these other very important points. But not enough perhaps is discussed about you are flirting with a deep kind of intimacy that's not casual sex at all. You just meet someone at a bar and then you take them home, and that is completely not what kink is, because it forges this deeper intimacy that becomes a bit difficult to just turn off when you leave.
It's interesting because you create language around these things. You can engage in any particular activity casually. You could spank somebody casually if you wanted to, but kink itself you can't do casually. And maybe that's the language I would use. But that's unique to me how I use the language. I personally would call it topping and bottoming, the less emotionally invested version of this. Again, there's no perfect language, but I will say that it is I would object to the notion that it's not a slippery slope. I'm not saying it can't be navigated, but it is definitely a slippery slope.